Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We've got a small group. We have several people reporting in that they're on vacation, or Sharon Grow is actually caregiving. So all excused, and we're wishing the best to everybody. So we've got some new members, and we've also had some, we collected some data, if you'll recall, at the grantee meeting, or around the time of the grantee meeting. We did a survey of all grantees about their technical assistance needs. So I wanted to kind of pull some of that information into the group and have a conversation. But first I want to welcome new members. Let's have a quick go around and introduce ourselves so everyone knows who's on the call. And then I'm going to do a really brief slideshow about where we've been and the purpose of the group. And then I hope have a quick conversation that I hope will also go on in subsequent meetings about how we want to support one another and how we want to support the entire Respite network. So I'm Susan Summers, been working with Jill for 5 years, and Jill and Arch. And I came to Arch actually through a study of the sustainability, the finance project toolkit workshops. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that project that happened about 5 or 6 years ago. I'll talk more about that later, but that's how I stumbled onto Arch and then never left. So, and I'm one of your facilitators, and I've been working with this group since 2017, and it's an amazing group. I'll talk more about that in a bit too. So again, welcome everybody, and if you ever need me, reach out via email, phone. I'd love to talk to you. Okay, I hand it to Jill.
Thank you, Susan, and we're so lucky to have Susan facilitating this group. I don't know of anyone who has developed more knowledge around this issue than she has, and her passion for respite is certainly unsurpassed. But I'm Jill Kagan, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm director of the Arch National Respite Network. And I participated in this group just because I love hearing about what you're all doing, so I hope you don't mind me being here.
Ronelle, how about you?
I'm Ronelle Baker. I am the Lifespan Grant Manager for Oklahoma. Yeah, that's me.
And Ronelle's like, Oklahoma is very self-effacing and very modest. They're one of our leaders, and Ronelle, we're just thrilled to have her a part of this group, and she's part of a really strong team in Oklahoma, which we'll also talk more about later. It turns out to be really important for sustainability. And Yasmin, you're new. This is your first time.
Yes, and I am with Nevada Lifespan Respite, and I'm a project coordinator.
So glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
With the state agency, correct? Not the coalition?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the state agency. Mm-hmm.
Tina, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So hi, my name is Tina Urich, and I am the Executive Director of the Illinois Respite Coalition. I'm going to say, Jill, it was probably over a year ago when you said you should join this committee. And I thought, oh, I don't know, and you're like, the Illinois Respite Coalition has been able to sustain. And we are fully independent now, standing on our own feet with our own 501c3 and also our fiscal agent. So happy to be here and to learn from everybody.
And they did that for many years without a federal lifespan grant. They kept going after their first one, I don't know, way back in 2009.
Okay, Tina, we need you on this group. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, thank you. I'm happy really to be here and to learn and just feel like, this is the time when we can really start moving forward versus just keeping our head above water to keep the group going since we lost that federal grant in 2012. So thank you, Jill, too, for all of your help and moral support and all of the information you've always given to us. You've all been very amazing.
Just to clarify, Illinois did just get a new grant, so
Yay.
a federal grant, so yay, finally. Back in the fold.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we're really excited. Also really happy that it's a 5-year grant. And we are in partnership with IDHS, DDED here in Illinois. And, you know, we really have some amazing things that hopefully will make, you know, life for caregivers in Illinois just so much better. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, we can't wait to learn about it as this group goes on through the year. And do we have, let's see who else we've got.
Got Dina.
Hi, Dina Prest. I am an aging program analyst at the New York State Office for the Aging in New York. I also oversee Lifespan Respite and our National Family Caregiver Support Program and 17 of our state-funded caregiver resource centers. Not sure Doris is going to join today. I think she had a conflict, but she sends her regards and says to say hello.
Hello, right back. And Abby, welcome.
Hi, everyone. This is Abby. I work at the New York State Office for the Aging with Dina on the programs that she just mentioned.
Okay, thanks everyone for being here. Jason was on earlier, so maybe he'll join us in a bit. But
That was probably me, Susan.
That was Dina.
I don't know why, but it's very weird. We have like a virtual desktop that we log into for work, and for whatever reason, it slows our camera down. So I have to like do Zoom outside of our virtual desktop. So I noticed, I was like, oh, my husband's name came up. So I changed it. Sorry to cause you confusion there.
okay, no problem. It's so weird you said that. I think, oh, we've got somebody else. I think it's Tracy connecting. Let's just make sure we
Tracy,
welcome her.
Hi.
Hi, Tracy. We're just getting started. We just did a round of introductions.
Okay.
So if you'll just tell everybody who you are, we've got a couple new members today, and you'll kind of meet them as you go. But Illinois has joined us, Tina Urich and Yasmin Orozco from Nevada, the state agency, their state agency partner. So, and I give you the wonderful Tracy Sinowitz.
I'm Tracy Sinowitz. I'm the director of the Alabama Lifespan Respite Network. And I'm sorry, please apologize for my tardiness. I was on the phone. But yes, that's it. And I have been with the program for about 3.5 years now, and with our parent organization, which is used to be Huntsville, for going on 15 years.
Thanks, Tracy. So I have a very brief slideshow for you. And Jill, I think you reformatted. So would you mind taking control of that?
Happy to do that. Let me
Thank you.
pull that up. Can you all see that?
I can see it. Everybody got it on their screen. So I just wanted to walk through this, even for those of us who've been around for a while. I did this as much for myself as for all of you, but I wanted the new members to kind of know where we've been and why we've been there. And also just to check back on myself, like to think about what was our original intention, how has that changed? It's definitely morphed over the years, and like, have the changes been what we want? I happen to think they're really good, but but they might not fit with what everybody wants here. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of history. And if you go to the next slide, Jill. So one of the things that I struggled with when I was first hired by Jill to do work on the evaluation of the original sustainability planning grants was like grasping what we meant by sustainability. And it's this very simple definition. And those of you who have worked on it either through one of those grants or are working on it now know that this simple definition belies how complex the process is, how long it takes, how much context you need to consider when you're doing it. But I still wanted to go back to that, the quality of being able to continue over a period of time. And next slide, please. So one of the things that Arch does each year is survey what your needs are, survey grantee needs in terms of training and technical assistance. So sustainability is consistently ranked a top training priority. I think that it instills a lot of fear and anxiety among people who are worried about sustaining their program. It continues to be a top training technical assistance priority, but among the network, this brave little group are the ones that have really dived into doing the sustainability work. So one of the things I want to talk about with you later is like how you as a group of leaders can help support the network by sharing your information and expertise. But anyway, so going back to, Jill will know the exact year, but I came on to do the evaluation in 2016. There were 8 grantees who got funding to do the finance project sustainability planning. And they each got a toolkit and they each got technical assistance. And I think they worked over 3 years to do a sustainability plan in their state. So the TA came from Arch and the finance project. And in the interview, in the evaluation, I interviewed in depth all those who got the grants. And there were a number of challenges in actually doing that sustainability planning. And so we learned a lot from that about what worked for them, what didn't work for them. And a report came out of that called Lessons Learned in Sustainability Checklist. And this is one key resource for sustainability that's on the Arch website that came directly from the knowledge and actually wisdom of doing the planning and from those original 8 exemplar states. Next slide, please. Also, that's a nice slide, Jill. Good job. So also out of that original work, we came up with an infographic checklist that kind of distilled what was in that larger support, tools for collaboration, and then the financing strategies. And I have to observe to you, most people, when they think about sustainability, they just think, oh, we need more money and we need it for longer. It turns out that's necessary, but not enough. It's more diversification of funding, matching what your goals are. And we have had people with money that still were not able to sustain programs because they didn't have stable leadership. They didn't think about succession planning and mentorship. And all of this has come out not only from that evaluation, but really from this group meeting each month. So let me tell you a little bit about the meetings. If you go to the next slide, Jill, we'll talk about how it started. So we started in 2017 with 3 of the states, of the 8 exemplar states, who were natural leaders, did a good job with their grants, some in managing their grants. Not all of them had great success in sustainability planning in that they didn't end up developing the whole plan, which is a very challenging thing. We've talked a lot about that in that group, and we're actually getting there now. People are actually accomplishing this, and big shout out to New York in doing this. But in addition to actually developing that plan according to the toolkit, these women just knew a lot about sustainability planning. So we got together with them. They identified goals and key topics for a learning collaborative so they could share their experiences with the wider Respite network. And next slide, please. So we did a survey of the original 14 collaborative members. We have a few of those, but there's been turnover. And in rank order, the topics members identified as most important were to them at the time were starting a coalition, volunteers and faith-based organizations. Let me just say a word about that. We've actually never really tackled that one. And when I think back on what we were talking about, I think we were talking about diversification of funding, a kind of broader topic, and how to make services affordable and therefore sustainable. Because it kind of seems like an outlier as a topic to me for sustainability. The third thing that collaborative members thought was important was grassroots advocacy and legislative change. We haven't tackled that much in this group, but that's one of the things I want to talk to you about going forward. The fourth and last thing they wanted to do was logic model and sustainability planning. So I want you to think about that for a minute, because it's a sustainability planning learning collaborative. So the purpose of this group really is sustainability planning, and it's the last thing anybody wanted to do. And you all can take a guess as to why that might be. And I think it's because it's like it seems like an onerous task, and it actually seems disconnected from your day-to-day work. And I think especially New York, with their experience, can disabuse all of us that it's not related to the success of our other work. Okay, next slide. So what we actually have done, that was the original idea. What we actually have done has evolved through the format that we use. So if you look in the right-hand column, this group is really member-led. It's no pressure, low key, but we go around and actually talk about what we're doing. And what happens when we do that is that the planning and sharing occur in real time. Both Jill and I have observed this. There's such a rich exchange in the group and actually outside of the group. There's so much peer-to-peer learning that's pretty painless that goes on. I also have to say, one of the good things about being old is that you have a lot of experience. Some of you may know I used to teach at university, and I was associate director of UCED, University Center of Excellence in Disability. And so I was in a role of leadership facilitation and systems building. And I have to say that watching this group grow over the years, it's like one of the strongest group of women, mostly women leaders that I've seen. So, and I'm not crediting this group for that, but I'm crediting all of you, but I credit this group for shining light on that and like making us aware of what you're doing. So the format, I think, is for Arch is working really well, but we're going to talk about whether it works well for you. So you have all been taking deep dives into challenging issues and collaborative problem solving, and people come here with things that are hard for them, and other people give them support in working through that. So lots of peer-to-peer support. And one of the things that I think is so important that we haven't talked about expressly, but we've kind of like glanced at a bit, is this collective building a knowledge framework that I think is much bigger than just the toolkit. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. I'm playing with some ideas that I want to run by with Jill and talk about with Jill first, but I'd like to kind of bring some of those to this group as we go. And so the key topics that we've covered the last 2.5 years have, rather than just forming coalition, we've talked about building collaborative communities. So like how the coalitions function, who are the key members, how do you make it the next one? How do you foster commitment through meaningful activity? Oklahoma has been so strong about this. Shared leadership. One of the things that I've noticed in this group is that often you'll start out with one member from a state and then other members join. And to me, that's kind of just happened organically. To me, that's a really good sign that there's mentorship going on, succession planning, shared leadership, and all these things are really important for sustainability, it turns out. So bring your friends to the group. Logic model on sustainability planning. This has been really hands-on. Thanks a lot to New York for going through the process and really sharing in detail and supporting the rest of us in those endeavors. How to build consensus, how to invest time, talent, and treasure, and using data to support sustainability. This is something that we worked on really early on, going back to the 2017. And this was, Cheryl Smith did a presentation on this early on, and it's something I think we might need to revisit. So that's what's happened the last couple of years. And next slide, please. So I've just been thinking about a few things. So I mentioned that we did the grantee surveys, and what we found out was that, again, sustainability is like high on everybody's priority in the whole network. The other thing that came up this time, well, COVID was huge, but we're not going to tackle COVID. Jill and Kim Whitmore have tackled COVID. So we're going to stick with sustainability. But the other thing that came up in the survey was people wanted more information and support in building strong respite systems. And I'm hoping next meeting, we can kind of talk about that in relation to sustainability. Because one of the things that I've observed through this group and through my work with Arch, and just gonna, oh, you won't be able to see it, but in support of caregivers, Arch did this key accomplishments of lifespan respite grantees this year. And one of the things that we observed is when we identified the areas of key accomplishment, there were certain states that stood out in having key accomplishments in multiple areas. And they also stood out in these having occurred over time. There was like a strategic, systematic building of systems. And it's just kind of gradually dawned on me that that's what was going on. And that also a number of those states happen to be members of this group. So there's some real brain power, wealth of knowledge in this group that I'm hoping we can use to strengthen the system as a whole. I mean, we're hoping the system will be stronger through increased funding, the network nationwide. So I'm just starting to think about that, how not only we can support each other in real time, but how we can support the network. Now, also in that survey, people liked webinars as their first choice of TA, and learning collaboratives as their second one. But I think this learning collaborative, it's attracted like really strong states. And we're missing some other states that are interested in sustainability, but I think they're afraid to commit to this level. So we want to think about how to reach them, or that's one thing I would like to do. So just today, well, we actually don't have to answer these today, but I'd like you to start thinking about this, how we might better support sustainability planning and better facilitate peer-to-peer support, both within this group and outside of the group. And then how we might best share your collective knowledge and wisdom with larger Arch Respite Network members, keeping in mind that they like webinars and learning collaboratives as a format for support. Okay, that's it. Relatively short and sweet. Maybe not sweet, but short, brief. And let's go back to our faces and see if anybody has an immediate reaction to what I just talked about. And then let's do our report-ins. Marilyn, hi, we've got Idaho here too. Welcome.
Thank you.
So anybody have a quick reaction to that? Any thoughts about where we've been and where you all want to go? And you know, what your goals for this group might be for yourself or for others? Or do you want to postpone that conversation after you've had time to think about it?
Susan, it's Marilyn. Could I just make one quick comment?
Please.
I was early on involved with the Sustainability Collaborative, and then I kind of fell off. I don't know why I wasn't getting the stuff, but
People come
I've
and
been
go.
involved with the other learning collaboratives, and they've been very helpful.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that the peer-to-peer support and information training is really valuable. And I can't think of any two states that are any more different than Idaho and New York.
Mm-hmm.
But Dina and I and Abby have had a lot of information sharing, materials sharing on some specific things, not necessarily sustainability, but some other aspects of what we're working on. And that's just been so valuable to me. that we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So if you just look across your, the group up here, let's talk about that for a minute. So New York, Idaho, Oklahoma, Nevada. We don't know Illinois yet, but Jill knows, and Tina will let us know. They've had a lot of this going on without the grantee ACL funding. So you all are the people that are doing this.
In Alabama.
And now, where are you, Alabama? Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to forget Alabama. And that, if you can see my face in this little book, if you look in this, you will see that. And I'm going to actually put some graphics together about that and trying to do like quick case studies of the evolution. And it's not happening in every state. Washington, we're missing Washington. Washington's also got longevity, even with leadership changes. So yeah, so you all are doing something that's a little difficult to capture, but is really important. And I don't want that to stay just in this group. I want other people to benefit from it. So think about that, how we can spread the wealth. Except for Manel, who's going to have a baby, but you have 14 weeks. Think fast. Okay.
Susan, is it okay if I share a couple of the ideas that Arch had about? Or
I would love it
to come from the group. I wasn't sure what your strategy was on that. I think some of the things we were thinking about, and you can give us your feedback, would be to pull 1 or 2 or 3 of you and do a network-wide webinar for the entire network. Those that are maybe afraid to commit to a monthly meeting like this. We had also talked about maybe some of you actually volunteering to be mentors for newer states or states struggling to think about sustainability. And provide some opportunities for you to work one-on-one or however it might be most comfortable for you. Again, these are just a couple of ideas. We want to know how you feel about those. And we welcome any other wonderful ideas you might have about the format for the group and other ways to, as Susan was saying, share with the entire network the great work that goes on in this group.
And the mentorings happen so organically. But like for maybe someone new that wants to come in, maybe we can figure out how to do that more systematically. Another thing that we'd
also like to be able to document whether that's working. So
right. Yeah. At Arch, we want to know, we want to know what you're doing so we can brag about it and ourselves when we turn in our final report. But also just know what's working for all of you. Another thing we've talked about casually, this hasn't been decided yet by Arch, but Cassandra Furman, who does the performance measurement, she and I have done evaluation together for decades. And we've talked about what sort of data you can collect for advocacy, for sustainability, to document sustainability and to inform sustainability, to show the merit of your work. So we've talked about doing something collaboratively, kind of network wide. And we've got some strong data collection partners here in this group. So I guess one of the things we're saying is like, think about whether or not you have the time and inclination to participate in a webinar or something like that outside of this group. One of the things I love about this group is it feels really supportive, and I'm hoping it doesn't put like one more task on you. Everybody's kind of busy and overloaded. So, and it's worked well that way. But again, you have to let us know if that's what you want. And with that, let's do a report in. Let's just hear what everybody's been up to. We missed July, so what's gone on for everyone since the grantee meeting, since the Bring, Brag, and Borrow? Who wants to start off?
So I'll start off. This is Tina from Illinois.
Hi, Tina.
And so I had a couple just quick comments about what you were just talking about. for me, it was timing before committing to this committee. And again, I have to give the credit to Jill, because as we were talking, she's like, Tina, the IRC has been sustainable. You should do this. And I'm thinking, oh, we haven't done a whole lot. We've just kept our heads above water. And I feel like a mentor piece. I think that's dead on for us.
Okay.
And that was something that the support of this committee, kind of being in a place right now where we have gone through everything with new leadership, new board, new different fiscal agents, to where we are now with, once again, being funded through the lifespan, but also building over time some really great relationships that have helped us to collect data to keep moving forward. So yeah, I really am excited to be here. I've always been in awe of what some of the other states have been able to do.
Right.
And here in Illinois, it's kind of a difficult state because there's a lot of rural counties that have absolutely nothing. Things are very disjointed. One county may not even know what's going on in another county. So some of the things that we're planning and we're excited about is has new lifespan grant, and some of the things that are going to be getting started pretty much right away is a new 800 number. And we're looking forward to our IDOA partners and the IDHS through the Department of Rehab and and others who, when going through this process, really we could really see from the letters of support, and we really didn't call it support. It was really a commitment to help us really move forward if we got this funding. So a new 800 number is coming. Prior to even hearing if we were awarded this new grant, the IRC was dedicated to statewide respite training. And I gotta really give it to Wisconsin, because for over 7 years, we had their information on our website so that some of the training could be utilized. But for them to offer up for free their knowledge and their training, we contacted them ahead of time because we were like, this is something that Illinois needs. So it's also in our grant, and we have been working with them to create that training here in Illinois, so that statewide respite training and a database. Through the grant, we will be able to give little stipends each year of $50 to people who complete and the training, along with, of course, that certificate. The emergency respite funding, our voucher program that was started in 2009 through 2012, through the lifespan funding, we have that again for the next 5 years. And the majority of the grant is that funding, which will be increased each year. So we'll be starting with 200 families to serve in this first year, and it will probably be more. Not everyone will need the full 500, but at least we have a program that has been tried and true, and we've used it through 2018 when we had some funding through DCFS for emergency respite. So we're really excited about that piece, along with some iPads and Alexa distribution for our rural areas to make sure that we can stay connected with our caregivers. We have a task force that we will be working on to make sure that we can move actual legislative changes and work on that. The other piece is, statewide provider meetings, which will be starting next month. So I know I'm not mentioning everything, but that's some of the things that we have been working on doing since we heard in July. Right now, we're waiting for the funding to come down to start distributing it, but we already have a wait list of families who we know are going to be in need of this. Outside of the Lifespan Respite Grant, we have a grant with IDHS DDD, and we serve over 25 communities in central and southern Illinois for individuals who have an intellectual or developmental disability through our in-home program. And I'm really proud to say that even though Illinois had the largest increase for some services, they did not increase respite funding through their in-home or voucher program statewide. And we led an advocacy effort which could restore the funding to last year's level if the agencies use their funding. So I feel like part of that advocacy was successful because of some of the relationships that we've already built with the state agency. So that's kind of where we are right now, and a little bit about what we've been doing.
Thanks, that's huge. And just, a couple of things I heard you say really stood out for me. The first thing I want to say is, about you've got diverse leadership, and you mentioned new leadership, some new partners. Nevada is really doing some groundbreaking work in that area, and Massachusetts as well in that area. Alabama and Oklahoma have long histories of strong, sustained leadership through times of change. And Idaho's another one, Washington's another one. So actually everybody here, but the two states that are in the throes of it are Nevada and Massachusetts, I would say. You also kind of reinforced my notion that sustainability is about systems building, because you're using diverse strategies, you've got task force tackling legislation, you've got statewide providers meetings, all those things I think are hallmarks of a strong system. And it makes me think of New York. I just see New York strategically growing in really thoughtful, intelligent ways. Idaho's another one that's got rural areas, and the same thing, really thoughtful ways to reach those areas and make them part of the kind of core leadership group in Boise. And then another thing that really stood out for me, and then I got to pass it because we've only got 20 minutes left, is that you talked about, instead of just letters of support, you had real commitment from partners. And this came up at the grantee meeting when we had the breakout groups, and that was discussed in the group that I facilitated as one of the key things, that these letters of support don't necessarily translate to commitment, and that you have to kind of recognize the difference. And then the wish expressed in my group is that ACL will give more money to the partners so they would commit. But so it is a matter of thinking about funding and how to use those funds that you have to make sure those partner commitments continue in other ways, through relationships, through MOAs, MOUs. But okay, that was a big start, Tina. And I'm going to pass the baton. Let's pass the baton to Idaho.
Oh, okay. Thanks,
Alan.
Susan.
Yeah,
I was making some notes.
Keep in mind, we've got 20 minutes, so.
Okay, I was making some notes when Tina was talking. Most of our work this last year has centered around a project that is funded, that we're doing, that's funded with Medicaid funds. It's the Family Caregiver Navigator project. It's a free, high-touch resource and information line for family caregivers. It's really exploded. And in the second year, we're focusing a lot on Spanish-speaking communities in Southwest Idaho. And from that, we are learning that we have 2 Spanish-speaking navigators, and we are learning that that's what it takes to make this work. But when we can penetrate the Spanish-speaking community in really meaningful ways that get them to call in and get a caregiver plan, there's very little in the way of Spanish-speaking resources to refer people to. So it's, that's caused us to kind of embark. I'm meeting next week with the director of the DD Council to talk about access to service issues, because the disability community confronts that all the time. But I think we forget that linguistics and culture are also access issues. So we're mostly working on that. We've contracted with a woman who's helping us put together a business plan.
Yay.
With a return on investment. It's focused on the Navigator project, but we think it will translate over to the ICA in general. COVID's been a friend to us in the aspect that we've done all of our meetings virtually, and now our quarterly ICA meetings attract anywhere from 85 to 120 people.
Wow.
And then we have quarterly leadership team meetings. We have 2 advisory committees that are attached to that Navigator project, one that began with it and one that we just put together this spring that is for the Hispanic outreach. We did some SWOT analysis with the AAAs around consumer-directed respite and what was working and not working for them as they embarked down that road, because that's key in rural areas where they don't have the providers that you were talking about. And we also worked really closely with our Alzheimer's Association. And this past session in the legislature, our coalition was successful in getting funds for an Alzheimer's disease and related dementia program coordinator within our Division of Public Health. Unfortunately, our lead navigator for the Navigator project was hired as the coordinator for that program. So it came back and bit us. So, but that's just some of the things we're doing.
Okay, so let me just bring some of what Marilyn said back to the sustainability and the kind of tenets of sustainability. It's like Idaho is a logic model developer extraordinaire, and the state to look to for data collection, how to collect meaningful data. And one of the things I've observed about the Navigator project, it is informed by data. They know, they make really sound decisions, and you can see that it works for them because it's not hit and miss. It's very strategic. And again, they think systemically. Another thing that you mentioned, Marilyn, that I just fortuitously, you talked about doing a business plan and the SWOT analysis. And we heard from Sharon Grow yesterday. She couldn't be on this call, but she's working, she's using a business model for sustainability. And she sent me the form. She sent Jill the form she's using. And so I've got a shout out to her to maybe kind of share that experience with the group. Because one of the things that's come up when we've looked at innovative and exemplary programs, some of you are familiar with that initiative from March, and we do really in-depth interviews with programs around the nation, and they're just stellar, and there's some real parallels with what they're doing in a strategic way locally with what you all are doing, building systems at the state level. But they all have business plans. They all have a sustainability plan that's actually a business plan. So they don't think about those things separately. So I think you're onto something there. So that's a wonderful report. Thanks for coming back. We need you.
It's very helpful here.
Okay. Dina and Abby, do you want to tell us what's going on in New York?
Sure. Abby chime in anytime if I miss something. I feel like we have so much in the works right now, but before I share, I just wanted to give a shout out to Marilyn, because I too found that our conversations have been extremely beneficial. So I'm glad you feel the same. So I hope they continue. And I think I owe you a calendar appointment for our next one. So I'll get on that. So here in New York, we have our next another sustainability summit. We're calling it a part 2. And I know Jill is going to come and present a piece there for us virtually October 8th. So that's exciting. We were supposed to have it last year, but with the pandemic, we did get delayed. So that's some upcoming work that I think will really help us with sustainability. We also received another ACL grant for Lifespan Respite, a 5-year grant, and very excited about piloting a regional caregiver wellness and respite center. And we did focus this on a rural area of our state up in the North Country. And it's 6 counties. And we are taking the first year in developing, but I think that the development phase will go very smoothly, because what we did was we actually targeted an existing provider of our Alzheimer's disease initiative. So SUNY Plattsburgh, it's actually part of their research foundation under SUNY. They have been running for the last 5 years basically a caregiver program that was focused on serving caregivers of those with Alzheimer's or dementia. So this is just really the same services, but expanding into, caregivers across the lifespan. They have a very robust voucher program. So it just seemed advantageous for us to, kind of ask for their partnership, and they're very excited to have been asked. And the hope is really that, our success will allow us to replicate in other regions of the state. So I think from a sustainability standpoint, where we can kind of access and use existing resources, once we kind of show how we're able to do this under Lifespan Respite and the savings it can provide with, keeping people home longer and et cetera, that's a hope that we have. So we're really excited about launching that work. So we're right now just engaging the partners and, starting to kind of put in the policy and procedures and things like that, with the expected launch to happen in July of 2022. We also, we were really excited when, I know I've been in the position now for about 4 years, but when we first partnered, basically, I think Arch had put out a request that seeking some pilot states for the life course respite tool. And so we did have a couple takers here in New York that were willing to test that tool, that we circled back to that in our proposal for this grant, because we thought that it just seemed very fitting for our ADRC, our New York Connects program, and the INA specialists that are also trained as person-centered counselors, options counselors, that having a tool like that in their toolbox would be beneficial when they're working with caregivers, because we know oftentimes they're the first ones that get them on the phone, and that it would really, I think, be good for them to be trained in using that tool. So that's something else that we're doing under this new grant. And I think it's something that would be sustainable, because then of course, once they have that tool, our hope is that they'll keep using it, even beyond the funding. So that'll be happening in years 3 through 5 is when we're going to actually train, and we're going to break it up into 6 regions across the state. So the first 2 years we'll be getting all the pieces in place, because we are going to actually add the tool electronically into our statewide client data system for access by the New York Connects workers. So that's really, something else that we're really excited about, and I think definitely ties us to sustainability. Under our current grant, our 3-year grant that we're in year 2, starting year 2 in September, we're implementing our very first voucher program. And I think I might have shared with this group that we launched a work group in January, and we decided to collaborate. And the work group was actually developing a caregiver directed model, both under our National Family Caregiver Support Program and Lifespan Respite, and trying to align the model as best we could, knowing that there's differences in eligibility. But the thinking was, if we're launching a voucher model under Lifespan Respite, there would be benefit of offering that same voucher model under our Title III program, so that, if and when that time ever came that funds were to dry up, or that there could be some, additional collaboration of like trying to use the resources the best way possible, depending upon the circumstances of the family. So we just finished our last work group in mid-August, and now we have just a smaller internal NYSOFA work group that is inclusive of Doris Green, the director of the coalition, so that we can now really put pen to paper and get the directive written for our network, and have Doris part of those conversations, so we can try to make sure that it's going to work well under Lifespan Respite. So I'll stop there because I know you still have some other people to talk, but we do definitely have a lot of balls in the air right now.
You do, and New York's been so fun to watch. So New York has this very strong team of people who work well together, have a lot of respect for each other. And some of the things that you talked about, Dina, that really stood out for me, that capitalizing on what has gone before, awareness of existing assets and resources. So I've observed that New York keeps up those relationships, knows who's out there, and when the time is right, they've engaged in enough planning that they can get something going that makes sense within their system. It's that New York seems to have a really coherent system. Things are connected. Another example of that, we talked about recircling back to repurpose earlier work. You talked about aligning models that serve different populations. And so again, capitalizing on what's gone before and what you have. And then the sustainability part too. I think back to that original grant where states were like from scratch, we're supposed to do the sustainability plan, and New York can attest that this is a long-term commitment. It isn't just something you write up, hand out, and they put it in a drawer and you never look at it again. It's actually, the writing up is important, but the whole process of everybody getting engaged. I think I've seen a difference in your collective work that's maybe happened because of this, or just as, serendipitously at the same time, but they've really done some deep planning, and they've had help from an evaluator. So the other thing is that another state that uses data to guide their decisions and in their planning. So we love New York. And right now, how about Oklahoma?
Okay. We have a lot going on as well. We also got the 5-year grant to our amazing shock. And to be honest, I'm very pregnant and hormonal. So when I got the phone call, the message from Nadine, and if you guys all know, I'm fairly new to working under Nadine, who is the Lifespan director for the state of Oklahoma. I did cry. I was like, we did what? So, but with that said, we hit the ground running the minute we knew that was there. Some of the big things that I like to talk about that we are doing, we too have an 800 number that we are rolling out. That was part of our, before we wrote the grant, we had sent out a questionnaire to our coalition partners and to anyone else that was willing to answer, what do they feel the state needs? And that is what we based a lot of our goals and work plan on, is exactly what they all stated. This is what we feel the state needs. And one of them was this 800 number, which is going to be a huge collaboration of our AAAs and then also our program called Sooner Success. These two entities are going to be working together on this 800 number. We actually do our kickoff party, as we're calling it, virtually next week to start that. And OHS, Oklahoma Human Services, we are housing that phone line. We are sustaining that. We are the ones that have that in our ball court. but the other programs are going to be the ones fielding these phone calls when they come in. It's going to be based on zip code. So every zip code in the state of Oklahoma is already entered into the status system. You call this number, you enter your zip code, it's going to direct you to the exact person you need.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so we're super excited about that. And it's not just for respite, it's for any kind of need. I wish I'd pulled that up so I could tell you what it's called, but it's the caring assistant line is what we're calling it, but lots going on for that. The other part, our partners all wanted to hit heavy on grandparents and other relatives raising grandchildren. So we're in the midst of writing up an RFP right now to send out to agencies that want to help create and sustain a statewide grandparent network. We have some just in certain counties, but we too are very rural. We want to hit all of our counties. Our counties have all said, hey, our families need this. So that is a huge goal that we're working on. The other thing, oh, there's so much, my gosh. I'm running out of time when I give the other two ladies time to speak. COVID's not stopping us. We have done so much with that. We do have a we call them COVID respite grant that we created last year in the 3-year grant. And that's if a family tests positive, if a family caregiver tests positive for COVID, then we lifted a lot of our restrictions for our respite vouchers due to COVID. But for this one, when you test positive, that's got a little bit more need of caretaking going on. So they get a special dollar amount grant for that one on a voucher. My goodness, there was so much more. I'm like Deanna, we got a lot of balls up in the air right now.
Yeah. You're really timely with the grandparents act. And then
that was the other one is our SIB shops. Our SIB shops.
Yeah, I love SIB shops.
Huge one. So we already, in the 3-year we had SIB shops, but in this 5-year we wrote for it some more. And one of the main things, and we already have again hit the ground running, we have partners throughout the state who said, hey, we'll partner with you guys. We have campsites. When COVID is lifted, let's hold our first ever SIB shop camps. And where this is not, so our plan is to have not only the SIB shops of the siblings, but we're also going to bring the loved one with special needs or disability there as well on their part. So parents are also getting respite entirely during this time.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes. And we have partners who are like on board to want to do this. We still hold SIB shops virtually throughout the state on different activities as well. So we've really adapted because of COVID. That has not stopped us from doing what we would normally be doing in person. We just done a lot of it virtually. And then our Caregiver Conference, again, is virtual and we're pretty much ready for it. It's November 10th of this year. And I'm so excited about it. It's going to be amazing. I think even more so than last year. So
okay,
there's a lot more, but that's what I'll share for now.
Okay, no, that's really wonderful. Again, making database decisions and building on what has gone before. Oklahoma is such a good model for that. And I'm sorry, I'm rushing you, but you can see why I'm excited about this group. It's like you all are just amazing. Yasmin, I'm going to let you go last in case you're overwhelmed by this this group. I'm going to call on Tracy next in Alabama. And Yasmin, when we get to you, you can share to the extent you want, or you can just listen. We don't want to put you on the spot the very first meeting. We're just glad you're here.
I'll make it short and sweet.
So we were also fortunate to get the ACL enhancement grant for the next 5 years. Yay!
Yay, congratulations.
Thanks, and congratulations to all of you as well. Ronelle, I didn't cry when we found out. I think I was so stunned. I was in that stunned for a while, but one of the 3 things that we're doing with those funds is we have a very robust voucher respite reimbursement program that serves GAP populations, and it's for those who don't qualify for other respite services in the state. And we had just done a needs assessment, our annual needs assessment with our caregivers, and again, one of the top 3 or the top of the most important things to them is consistent planned respite. And we have always, because we're nonprofit and we're grant funded, we have always given the money until we can't anymore. And it depends on how many people come on. So a lot of times we're out of respite reimbursement funds by mid-year. And so with these new funds, we're able to offer quarterly respite reimbursement at a higher rate than they've ever gotten before. And when I saw that on paper, that's when I cried when I saw that.
Pretty good.
They can plan their respite and they know exactly what dates those vouchers are going to fall, when they're going to get them. And that just gave me chills and made me so incredibly happy. So that's the biggest part of what we're doing with this funds, is bolstering our respite reimbursement program for that planned and emergency respite. But two of the new things we're doing with those funds, again, back to our needs assessment. Like everywhere else, there is a care provider shortage in Alabama. There is no standard training for care providers in Alabama. And the vast majority of caregivers who use our respite reimbursement program do use an unskilled friend, neighbor, church member, another family member to provide respite for them. And so the need is, yes, we do need providers, but we also need those people who are providing respite for us to have some knowledge base to go on, a little bit of training. So what we did, we have enrolled with an online nationally accredited company called Care Academy. And so now those unskilled respite providers are able to go on. We can serve up to 25 a month for free. They can go on and get 8 hours of basic care provider training. And there's hundreds of different topics that they can choose from. So we can tailor it to meet their needs. So if they're caring for an individual with Alzheimer's, then we can do, Alzheimer's specific courses, or if they just need basic CPR or basic ADL, training or whatever, we can tailor it to what they need. And the way that we're getting the word out about this program is not only through our caregivers. Of course, we're offering it to our caregivers first to say, if you need this for your care provider, here it is, and it's free. And we can also offer a stipend for a criminal background check for an individual. A lot of these rural areas, they don't even have another family member or anyone that they can lean on. They just have to say, hey, is there anyone on my street who can do this? So that might give them a little more peace of mind, having that criminal background check piece. Yeah. But we're also reaching out to our AAAs, everyone on our Alabama Lifespan Coalition that's governor appointed, all of those agencies. We are sharing this information with them. So it's not just for our caregivers, it's for anyone in the state who is caring for someone who needs a little additional training, who needs a little additional help, that's caring for someone in the home. So that's a free program that they're offering through this new grant. And then the third thing, again, going back to our needs assessment, was the caregivers keep telling us Alabama Lifespan Respite is a great resource. But we'd love to know what other resources are available to us. What else is there out there? I may not just need caregiving resources. I may need something specific to Alzheimer's, or something specific to a diagnosis, or maybe even utility assistance, all these different things. So what we did, we kind of brainstormed with some of our coalition partners and said, what can we do? So they committed to coming together quarterly, and we created the It's the Caregiver and Agency Resource Exchange program. It'll be a quarterly meeting where the agencies come together with caregivers in a very, just like a community of practice forum, come together and just discuss and say, this is out there and this is how you access it. And then we'll share all those resources on a web page, that we learn every month. We have a web page set up for that. So those are some of the new and exciting things that we have going in Alabama.
Just blown away by what you all are doing. And I'm conscious of the fact that we're over time. So thanks to all of you for hanging in. That Alabama, just the continuity in Alabama and the building on a firm foundation over time, I'm always struck by how strong that is in your state. And you have had personnel changes, but you must be really good at finding and nurturing one another and partnerships. And so, we want to hear more in depth in future meetings about how you're addressing care provider shortage, huge for all of us in terms of sustainability. And then I love this idea of the caregiver and agency resource exchange, so that we'll be interested to hear how that goes.
Yep.
And Yasmin, we're putting you on the spot because you're new to this group, and you can just listen this time, or do you want to say anything about what's going on in Nevada? We love Nevada. We're so happy. to be part of
Yeah,
this.
I have a couple of things I can, bring up.
Great.
We had to reapply for the ACL award. So we're hoping now that we have our coalition forming, and we could reapply again, and hopefully we'll get it an award for that, but we'll see. And then we also have been working on getting our partners to develop mechanisms on finding service providers. So what we're thinking of doing is we're going to be holding up a little bit like Alabama is doing. So we have our Nevada Care Connection site. And so we have training modules that will be available for use for caregivers or anybody in rural and in the city area to have a little bit of training, a little bit of foundation to have access on, specific things that are a little bit more tailored approach for the person-centered, having a person-centered kind of helping families understand this is how we have, how we care for somebody with Alzheimer's. This is how we care for somebody that's having a physical disability. So those are the things we're kind of focusing on right now. And then hopefully in the upcoming months, I'll be able to start going out to the rural communities and reach out to any of the community centers, senior centers, the grocery stores, and just letting them know what our state has to offer for respite. I feel like a lot of the rural communities are underserved, and it's also due to the fact that we don't have any providers out there. And so we have to work with the community itself, and especially like the Hispanic communities, and understanding what respite is and how we can identify caregivers within our own communities. And then let's see, what else do we have going on? I think those are the main things so far.
Okay, so first of all, best of luck with the grant. I love Nevada. I love what you've done in the past, and I know there have been huge transitions in Nevada. And what I just hear such great possibilities for peer-to-peer support. I'm hearing about the caregiver shortage and the different ways you all are trying to address that through training and online training. That would be a good conversation to have about what's working, what's not working, how you're reaching caregivers, how you know whether it's working, like what data you're collecting. And then I just hear a parallel between what you're doing and what Idaho's doing in their Caregiver Navigator and reaching underserved populations and how to do that. And I know Nevada's worked on that for a long time too. So there's a conversation waiting to happen. Rural outreach, yeah. And then you talked about partners developing mechanisms to find service providers. Just as you go on with that, we're really interested in hearing about that again with relation to caregiver shortage. And I've kept you all an additional 9 minutes. I just stand by my words that you're the most amazing group of women, and the work that you're doing is astounding. And I just have to say again, I write the state summaries for ARCH. And so I've watched you all grow like through that process, but especially through this group, like to see in depth the work that you're doing is just really a privilege I speak for Jill too on this. And she said this in the chat, we're so excited by proposals that you've written and the grants and the work that you're doing. I can't wait to write you up and brag about you in forthcoming documents. And with that, I bid you all adieu, and we'll see you the 4th Friday in September. Have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Stay safe. There's lots of COVID out there. And thanks. So much thanks to all of you.
Very exciting session. Thank you for sharing.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you all.
Bye, ladies.
Nice to meet you.
Bye, ladies.
Same.